Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming. With a recent addition of the Dendro Archon herself, Nahida has really grown Dendro as an element to the next level. In today's strange little video, I'll be going over my top 4 weird yet surprisingly powerful Nahida teams for you guys to try out. Nahida is such an interesting character, providing the largest elemental mastery buff in the game at Constellation 0 with just her elemental burst. She also applies and reapplies tons of dendro. This opens up some increasingly more viable team compositions that one might not expect. Now, I wanted to avoid the more obvious team builds like Kuki Hyperbloom, Toma Burgeon, Nilo Bloom, Sino Aggravate, etc. So I asked a couple of my friends and brainstormed some ideas for some wacky teams to showcase to you guys. For this entire video, my Nahida is at Constellation 0, and her talents are at 6, 6, and 6. Let's start with our first team by having Raiden finally live up to the role of a quote-unquote support character. This triple Archon team features a Gilded Dreams Nahida, a pure elemental mastery Raiden Shogun, Xingqiu, and a Deepwood Memories Zhongli. This team is actually way stronger than you might think, especially for single target damage. Each Hyper Bloom can do up to 36,000 damage while Raiden is off field. This is surprisingly powerful single target damage. Raiden works exceptionally well as the Hyper Bloom activator since her elemental skill ticks occur every 0.9 seconds and also have good AoE. In fact, if we keep Raiden on field, these Hyper Blooms are now hitting the Primo Geovishap for 40,386 damage each, and it's not uncommon for this team to output constant double Hyper Blooms. And this doesn't even account for Nahida's decent spread damage as well. Even in Abyss 12, this team is absolutely dominating. I did an Abyss 12 run in literally just 5 minutes and this team completely trivialized it. Zhongli is here so you don't even need a dedicated healer, and Nahida's essentially AoE with her Tri-Karma Purification helps this team shore up its AoE issues. Now, I saw many comments criticizing my choice of the Gilded Dreams instead of Deepwood Memories on Nahida, but I think the Deepwood Memories is much better on the lowest damage dealer that can still hit things consistently with their elemental skill or burst. This will significantly increase Nahida's damage since she'll get a ton of elemental mastery from the Gilded Dreams, and she'll still get the 30% dendro resistance shred from her teammate that's actually running the Deepwood Memories. Anyway, I was amazed by just how viable and strong this team felt. And funnily enough, I never even had to use Raiden's burst a single time. Now, don't get the wrong idea, I don't think this team is better than Hyper Raiden or other meta teams, but the fact that this team is this strong at all is already an amazing and hilarious feat. And I do recommend trying this out if you have these characters already built, as all it requires is shuffling some artifacts around. The next bizarre yet befuddlingly capable team is this burning and overloaded focus team. This team consists of a Deepwood Memories Nahida, a Sapwood Blade Noblesse Oblige Bennett, Iron Sting Viridescent Veneer Kazuha, and Stringless Gilded Dreams Fischl. The idea behind this burning load team, beyond the slightly disturbing name, is to abuse the fact that Dendro and Pyro are constantly reapplied thanks to Nahida, Bennett, and Kazuha. This allows Fischl to constantly trigger overloadeds, and in case you didn't know, for the brief period where Dendro is still active via burning, Quicken, Aggravate, and Spread can all still be activated. In this frame, we can see overloadeds, spreads, and aggravates, all occurring at roughly the same time. Granted, the reactions here are a complete mess and basically impossible to get any semblance of consistency, but sometimes the chaos and messiness congealment of a burning load is what you want to spice things up a bit. I ran this one through the top half of Abyss 12, and admittingly I spent about 13 minutes on this run, which is much longer than the Hyper Bloom team, but I'm quite happy with its performance. If you like a gazillion numbers on the screen at the same time, this is the perfect build for you. I'm at a complete loss for explaining what's even going on here, but I assure you it's extremely unpleasant for our enemies here unless they go see a doctor about their burning load. It's just hilarious that every time Fischl uses her elemental skill or elemental burst, there are more numbers than the mind can process, and this team is burning this top half of Abyss 12 to the ground. Now, despite its seemingly stellar performance, I will admit that the consistency of this team is absolutely horrible, hence why I had to retry this many more times than the Raiden Hyperbloom team from earlier. Sometimes an enemy would still be at nearly full health, while other times they would be completely dead. This definitely lacks the reliability of pretty much any other team in Genshin Impact. Nonetheless, if you're looking for some crazy yet explosive hot fun, then I highly recommend this Burning Load team. Up next, we have another burning focused Nahida, but this time it's a pure support variant. In a typical Melt Ganyu team, you often want Xiangling to reapply Pyro for Ganyu. However, if you run Bennett, Kazuha, and Nahida, now you'll be able to apply tons of Pyro thanks to Kazuha's burst and Nahida's burning reapplication. You also get Nahida's massive 250 elemental mastery buff, and you can slap on instructors onto Nahida as well. And finally, you can put on the thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. In total, this support Nahida is providing Melt Ganyu with 370 elemental mastery, 48% attack, and Pyro reapplication. My Refinement 1 prototype Crescent Melt Ganyu with food was able to output a stellar 256,382 melted bloom with this setup. Admittingly, this is not as practical as even the Burning Load team for groups of enemies, because you're going to get knocked around without Zhongli's shield. But in scripted boss fights, this nuke setup is incredible. Here against this Scaramucci weekly boss fight, I'm able to effortlessly one-shot his first phase with this setup, and then we're able to effortlessly one-shot his last phase as well. Ganyu did a colossal 574,585 damage melt at the very end. Again, not as practical as the typical Melt Ganyu team with Zhongli, but an awesome and fun way to use Nahida as a huge damage amplifier. And that's not the only way to use this burning support Nahida. You can do the exact same nuke setup for Hydro characters too. Namely, Child is the easiest to do this with, and he's an incredible recipient of this buff. With this much easier setup than using Mona, Child effortlessly nuked our robot chicken friend for 1,019,246 damage. The last team is probably the weakest of all these teams, but it is a pure spread team. This team consists of a Gilded Dreams, damage-focused Nahida, a Sapwood Blade, instructors Kuki Shinobu, an Emblem of Severed Fate's Traveler, and finally a stringless wielding Deepwood Memories Collei. We've been so focused on Electro DPS characters like Sino, Kaching, and others that we forgot our Dendro characters also do damage. Kuki provides the entire team with the much needed quicken, as well as healing, as well as 120 full team elemental mastery buff from the instructor set. I put Deepwood Memories on Collei because she doesn't scale as well as Nahida or Traveler do with elemental mastery. And I put the Emblem of Severed Fates on Traveler because I only have one good Gilded Dream set for Nahida, and it has better burst uptime and energy management. While certainly not as strong feeling as even some of the previous teams, I was pleasantly surprised by this team's viability. Everyone, except for Kuki, felt like they were all doing non-negligible damage, and if you have Tignara, you can even use him instead of Traveler or Collei. This team's performance in Abyss 12 was pleasantly good as well. However, it's worth noting that unlike some of the previous teams, it's recommended to have 3 solid DPS artifact sets for this team, whereas for the previous ones you only needed 1 or maybe 2 sets. Nonetheless, there are tons of 10 to 50k Dendro numbers that all add up to do significant amounts of damage. The great AoE on all these characters makes hitting many enemies a breeze, and Nahida is an excellent on-field driver for this team as she benefits from the lack of snapshotting, whereas Traveler and Collei can snapshot their bursts inside of Nahida's burst. All these factors, while initially seemed to be spread out to the point that it didn't seem to be any good, really comes together to make an interestingly viable and strong spread team. So there you go, my top 4 weird Nahida teams that are surprisingly powerful. Do let me know some weird teams that you use with Nahida, as I'm super curious to see what you guys have in mind. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos, ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button, as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.